Well, welcome to another edition of My Harlow My Life, and I'm pleased to say that joining me today, as everybody can see, is Mr. Ross Arnold. And welcome, Ross.
Yeah, cheers for having me on, Dave. I'm just hoping a few people watch it. It would be nice, because I think he's got some better ones coming up. But
No, no, Mr.
yeah, glad to be on.
And to say the idea is to get everybody we can get on, fans, directors, whatever else, and past managers, players, and everything else. So it's just good to get you on. But I mean, how you been coping yourself? I mean, have you been in lockdown yourself, or have you been working all the way through?
Been working the whole time, Dave. Going into the office as well, so it's been exactly the same, except I can't do any of the fun stuff, such as go to the football, go to the pub. Yeah, so just as normal, mate.
Yeah,
For me.
no, happy days. Listen, mate, I'm just going to pause it for a minute. So as we said, so basically been in the office then.
Yeah, the whole time. The whole time. So yeah, no break for me. Just obviously I've got this week off for Royal Ascot, but apart from that, yeah, been in as normal.
Would you have gone normally then? Got your top hat and towels?
Um, who knows? I've been to a few racing. Always a good crack, but yeah, who knows? But just been watching it, having a few bets on that instead. So
Yeah. So where did your love for Harlow start then? I mean, whereabouts? Because you're only a young man yourself, and I mean,
yeah.
when did you actually start sort of, maybe not watching Premier League or not going Premier League matches and going into non-league and finding your way over at Barrows Farm?
Well, I used to work at Superdrug
Right.
on a Saturday, so couldn't really get to any football at all. I'm a Spurs fan usually, but don't really go.
Bit of luck, really, but Spurs fan, isn't it? You don't really want to go anyway, do
Anyway, yeah, exactly.
you?
But I sort of had a rare Saturday off, and one of my mates, Ian Doran, sort of said, "Oh, do you fancy popping down to the football?" Um, Went down, thought it was brilliant. The crack on the terrace was fantastic. The football wasn't as bad as kind of what everyone makes out. Yeah, and was kind of hooked from there. That was the season that we didn't get promoted. That would have been sort of. I went to a few games at the back end of the season, and then the following season, when we went up, was the season I started going properly. Sort of the playoff winning season.
Yeah, so you started off in the season then with the Needham Market 100-point season.
That's the one. Yeah, that's when I started going to games.
So, I mean, you go to games. I mean, when you go to the away games and stuff, I mean, who do you normally go to the away games with? Do you go by yourself, or do you normally just sort of jump in a car with others? I mean, who's your normal sort of crack of people in the car on the way to the away games?
It's Phil, Northern Phil, Fags, and Connor usually now for the away games, and Phil's father-in-law drives us.
And
So pretty much week in, week out. That is
must be
the away game.
Must be a fun, fun crack sometimes going up in those cars. Any funny stuff you can tell us about?
Well, it's not so much the journeys because we're usually sober at that point. I think it's more once we're there and we've had a few beers because we always find a pub to go into. I think Phil researches it all week, and then we go in a pub. We've got a rating system for the pubs that we go in. So obviously we know that we're going to have to go back to these places. We make sure we don't go back to any of the crap ones. And then usually we spend the return journey moaning about the game, which in recent times, as you can imagine. But
So what? Is there any sort of stories you can tell us that are, that are able to be put out on air? Shall we say?
Wasn't so much an away game, but we used to stay in the clubhouse after the home games. We used to have sort of one or two beers, have a chat to the players, which is something that doesn't happen anymore. Now we've lost a few of the sort of familiar, friendly faces. But it was after one game, and I can't remember who we were playing, but I think it got a bit sort of aggressive, and there was a few sort of handbags on the pitch. I think one of their players was sent off, and he's walked past Craig Pope. I heard this sort of afterwards, and apparently he said something to Popey, and there was a bit of a scuffle then. So we're in the bar, and Popey sort of standing at the bar, should we say, we tried to say hello, and it's just nothing. You're getting nothing from him. And then all of a sudden, their players come piling out of the dressing room. I think they went out, where the fire exit is, on the downstairs bar. Yeah. Everyone's piled out there. I think Leon Antoine had his kid. He was like, someone hold my kid. Oh, it was carnage. And they all come back in. I think Popey come back in scraping his knuckles. Like, it was unreal, absolutely unreal. But yes, that was one of the better ones after a game.
But I mean, with the games, can you remember what the first game was you went to see?
I don't, to be honest. The first away game that I remember was, who was it that played at Bromley's ground? Was that Cray?
Cray Valley, yeah.
Right, yeah, I went.
Cray Wanderers. Cray Wanderers.
Cray Wanderers, that's right. Yeah, because I don't know if they still play at Bromley or what.
They
but
do, yeah. For the minute,
I went with John Whitnell. Drove me and Ollie there, and I think that was sort of the first away game I went to. I think I'm sure we lost, maybe 2-1, because I actually thought they were one of the better teams we played the season we went up, and I was a bit worried when we drew them, to be honest. But yeah, that's the first away game I remember.
I think if I remember, I think it was 3-1. I think didn't they score a cracking free kick as well down the far end?
Okay. That sounds familiar. Yeah. That sounds familiar. It's not one of the results I sort of looked up, but I sort of remember us losing. That stuck with me the whole season. And when we drew them in the semi-final, I was a bit worried, but I think we were fantastic in that game, and then obviously in the final as well.
I mean, that you talk about clubhouses and stuff. That's some clubhouse down there.
It was, yeah.
I remember going in there.
I don't know.
The old American sort of stalls, didn't it? On one side with, where you could, like diners and stuff, charging bays down the left-hand side and all the rest. And I remember asking a woman there how much it cost, and it cost them $80,000 to put that unit up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, some of the ones we've been to this season, Dave, I don't think they spent £80.
So I mean, when you went there to that game, what was your first home game?
Honestly, don't remember. It was, as I say, it was that season before, and I think Alex Reid had just got injured, and we were on a bit of a bad run, sort of towards that 100-point season. I don't know if we'd lost a couple of games or dropped some points, but it was probably my fault for like turning up and putting the mockers on it. But no, don't remember the exact game. In all honesty, I think a lot of them just sort of roll into one. I just remember the crack, and just thinking some of the things that people were shouting out are absolutely hilarious, and just thinking, oh, this is genius. I think I've spent 90 minutes laughing.
Well, someone sent in, just before we carry on with anything else, but some people have sent in some messages for you, and as you know, you're a popular character, and I look at this fans forum, and you seem to be the what's the name of most of the jokes that go on either you or towards you. But Phil Hodgson's come in and said, Ross Arnold, what's your favourite away ground pub?
Oh, see, I saw this question. I had to refer to the ratings, but we went to Bracknell last week. One of the better teams in our current division, I thought, actually. And they had Yorkshire pudding wraps. And the only place I've ever had a Yorkshire pudding wrap is in York. I've never seen them anywhere else, sort of in the south. And I think that sort of had to edge it for me on that basis.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of those ones. I mean, I remember we used to sell the old Cornish pasties at our place, didn't we, at one stage? And we used to sell the Cornish pasties. We used to sell quite a bit, but I've never heard of that Yorkshire pudding wrap. Question for Ross from Ian: if he could choose, what would be his preferred music for when the players run out? Glad all over? You'd be happy with that, would you?
Oh, this is a bit of a running joke. This has become. But so I don't want to upset anyone, as I said, so we won't go into too much detail on it because someone that was on your show the other day wasn't too pleased with some of my comments about that. So I think we'll leave that one there.
Right.
I think they've done that one to wind me up.
Another question on here. Where was it? Right at the top, I think someone put on here. Legsy. No, not Legsy. Sorry, let's get it right. Ian Harvey, has Ross got any toilet roll for sale? What's the story behind that?
That's basically what I sell, Dave. I I'm a salesman. I sell janitorial supplies, so there's always plenty of sort of toilet roll gags thrown my way. It's actually started with Legsy, actually, because I don't know if he still is. Legsy used to be a caretaker.
Yeah.
Or I think we have to call them site managers now. I don't want to offend him. But we always used to say about Nicky toilet roll and all the rest of it. So yeah, I get pelters with that all the time.
Okay, and I'll ask you a question because I've seen it come up a few times. What's the fantasy with Ian's missus?
Oh, it's just a bit of a wind up. She's a very very attractive lady, but just a bit of banter on the page, Dave. Really.
We said I said to him actually, because every time I see Ian's wife, and I said this to him the other day after the actual interview with him the other day, if you've seen Pitch Perfect,
I've not seen it. No, I heard your comment.
Yeah, there's a lady in there, and she looks absolutely spitting image of his missus. I must admit, but it was funny. But so, are you disappointed then? You know that some of the cracks and that, as you say, that you have in the crowd and all the rest of it. That quite a lot of people now are no longer involved in the club and have moved away from the club, etc., etc. I mean, one, are you disappointed? And two, what do you think would bring those fans back into the ground?
It is disappointing because I think I was sort of maybe starting to come as a few people were drifting away. Sort of definitely after the season we had in the Prem. I think that season, especially, people started drifting away, and then obviously when we got relegated. But it's much better with some of them characters there. I mean, we play Hartford this season. And a few of the old faces sort of turned up. So you had Simon, Eric, Legsy, a couple of others, and it was such a good crack just to have them characters back. And like, I think a few people, including myself, had sort of one or two little run-ins on Facebook or whatever, because I think people were annoyed that certain people were commenting all the time. But sort of we were the ones still going week in, week out.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit sort of nothing major. And then it became a joke because they all posted a picture of them having a curry. So we was calling it Curry Club. And then they turn up to this Hartford game and they're all doing the Curry Club chants. So, it's a brilliant crack. Sort of everyone was getting on. Yeah, it was fantastic. For them to come back, I don't know. They've obviously got their own reasons, Dave, in terms of who's in charge, management, and so on and so forth. And until certain aspects of that change, then a lot of them will stay away, I believe. Maybe we'll see them more often at away games. I don't know. But obviously they've got their reasons, and that's up to them. For me, I go with my mates every game to watch a bit of football, and sometimes it is dire, especially over the last couple of seasons. But ultimately, yeah, that's what it's about for me, and it don't really bother me who's in charge, because I'm having a crack with my mates.
Yeah, I mean, what do you expect from the season coming then? I mean, when do you think it will start? I mean, because I'm hearing rumours now since before Monday, I was hearing that we'll be lucky to see football before January. Now all of a sudden it seems to have spun on its head, and the rumour is now that we could be starting beginning of September, maybe beginning of October, depending on, of course, there's a meeting I think I think it's today or Friday with steps 5 and 6, where they're going to be talking about when start date and what they might be doing and what they might not be doing. So by the time this goes out, we might know. But I mean, when do you think we'll be starting to be able to go over to Barrows Farm again and watch a bit of football?
Yeah, as you say, September, October seems realistic to me, because I think they want to get the Premier League out of the way, and get it cracking. I'm seeing a lot of clubs signing players on Twitter, and I'm thinking, would they be signing them if the season was going to start in January? So, yeah, September, October seems realistic to me. Personally, think that maybe they could have maybe carried it on after a brief pause, because surely it's a lot easier to social distance at this level than it is at Premier League level. But Yeah, who knows? But I think September, October certainly looks realistic.
So taking that into consideration, in September, October. So looking at that with the actual team itself, I mean, at the moment, have you got concerns? I mean, because I know that the last statement that the club put out was that Mark was there to the end of the season, etc., etc., and so there's not been a comment. So I mean, are you a little bit concerned about Harlow being a little bit behind the eight ball and maybe sort of all of a sudden teams are. I mean, you mentioned Bracknell earlier on, and every day I go onto Twitter and Bracknell signs another sort of non-league superstar, and they seem to be, doing a Romford almost, if you know what I mean. It seems to be the team that everybody's going to have to beat this year. But are you you and other people that you speak to, are you concerned that we still haven't sort of confirmed Mark as manager or somebody else and players, etc.?
It always seems to be the way with us. I don't know if maybe we're not as sort of forthcoming in terms of putting things on social media, but we just seem to be always have been behind other clubs in terms of signing players. As far as I've heard, the current management team will be in place. Obviously, it's all rumour and innuendo at the moment. Certainly need work on the squad, Dave. I mean, don't want to put words in your mouth, but you saw the team last year, and that certainly needs improving and improving quickly. So yeah, probably a little bit concerning, but maybe once this meeting occurs and there's a bit more concrete information, they'll crack on. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm not going to jump on their backs too soon
No.
for not having done anything.
I mean, are you, as a fan? I mean, are you happy with the fact that now all of a sudden we seem to have a different sort of management, higher management? We've got, a good friend of mine, a school, an old sort of friend from when we were kids, in Tim as CEO, and of course Chris Ottaway coming in as chairman. Do you see those as good changes for the club?
Yeah, Tim's a great bloke. Got a lot of time for him. Had a good chat with him actually last week about things. Chris Ottaway, don't really know the bloke, so I don't want to comment too much. But to me, it just ultimately Tommy will still be pulling the strings. I just see Chris as almost like a figurehead, and it's Tommy's money. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see Chris being able to make sweeping changes. In all honesty.
Okay. So what about you say you was in that first season that you was there, and I mean, can you remember where some of the games that you went to and what they were like in the atmosphere wise and what it was like in the crowd, and maybe some funny bits that maybe have happened inside the crowd? I mean, I'm not sure what season it was, but and if he was even around, it was mentioned the other day about the guy falling over the top of the turns over the balustrade. I'm not sure if he was there at that game either, but
Yeah, I think I was at Newmarket or something that day, and I obviously we've got group chats and all the rest of it, and people were saying about Alan Hatt falling over the barrier, so I was a bit gutted to have missed that one. There was one away at Thurrock where there was a decent bunch of us behind the goal, sort of maybe 30, 40 of us, and there was a big geezer, and he was getting a few pelters from our crowd, and all of a sudden he comes round and he pulls a metal bar out of the stand, and we're thinking, what's going on here? And he sort of starts to walk towards us. So like I think a few people like with the women and kids and that sort of moved out of the way, but I think Tomo was the one to approach him, and he weren't so confident once Tomo had sort of calmed him down. But yeah, a bit of a weird one, that one. He looked like he'd done it before, so why would you know where this metal bar was? But yeah, that was certainly a bizarre one.
So I mean that season. I mean, what was that like as a fan? I mean, I've not asked that question about that season really. I mean, what was that like as a fan when you're in the stands, you're going home and away? It's a big chase going up to chasing Needham Market, etc., etc. But what was that like? Was it you guys constantly on your phones, refreshing your phones, see what they were doing, and that sort of situation? I mean, what was that actually like that season for you guys? I know it was bad enough standing up in the stand, but what it must have been like for you guys. Be interested to know where where your heads were when all this was going on.
Yeah, it was certainly tetchy. I mean, as I said, obviously I only started sort of going the back end of that season as the race was sort of February, March, as that race was hotting up. But you could almost sense how nervous people were, and it was always Needham Market. What's going on at Needham Market? I think even on the last day, we had a corner, and Alex Reid was asking the supporters what was going on at Needham Market. I mean, great crowds and great atmosphere for sure. But as with anything, the nerves were creeping in towards the end of it.
Yeah. So what was your talking about nerves and everything else? We skipped forward. We got 2 games left to play. I think we had Thamesmead and Needham. They had us and Chatham. So we ended up going up to Needham Market last but 1 game of the season, almost like a 1989 Arsenal Liverpool game type thing. We go up there. I mean, what was the? Can you remember your journey up, or what? Any of
I did. To be honest, Dave, I didn't go.
You didn't go.
I didn't go for that one. No, because obviously working on a lot of Saturdays, I couldn't always get to them. So that bit of a gut of that one.
Yeah.
It was more sort of the following season is the one where I more remember things.
Yeah.
As opposed to that one. But no, I missed the Needham Market game, and I missed it was the semi-final in the playoffs. I missed that as well.
Yeah.
So I sort of had a bit of a mare at the start of me following Harlow Town, but not missed too many since.
So what about that season then? What about the season we got promoted? I mean, what do you remember of that?
The thing that stands most, bizarrely, is probably the cup run. Because that was the season we lost to Braintree, right?
I think so.
Was that the same year?
I think so. Yeah. I'm not sure, but I think so.
Because I think we finished 3rd or 4th, didn't we? And not that much stands out from the actual sort of league season itself. I just remember the cup run because St Ives away was brilliant. I think we won 3-0. Sort of put a coach up there and all the rest of it. And I remember Junior Dadson, I think, got 2 that day. And his first goal, we were all behind the goal, and it was a tiny sort of narrow area. So we were all packed in, and he scored, and he just dived into all the fans. It was fantastic. Obviously, then had that draw with Bath. I know you spoke about the replay.
That was a trophy one, yeah.
Oh, that trophy. Oh, yeah. Memory shocking.
So with that game, I mean, do you remember anything about that game and the draw at home? And did you go to the away game? Did you sort of get there with the likes of Buddha and everybody else?
I didn't. It was midweek at Bath. Was I think impossible for most people. That's why there was only about half a dozen people there.
Yeah.
But no, I remember listening to it they had it on local radio.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people tuned into that, and they got a few of our players' names wrong, which was sort of fairly amusing at the time. And we scored late on, if I remember rightly. And I think everyone in their houses was probably going mental, and the half a dozen there were going crazy.
It was a great night. It was a great night, I must admit. But the whole day was. But I mean that draw. I mean the home game. I mean, what was you thinking when the main man Sonko smashes heads and he's got a massive deep cut on his head and he's being taken off? I mean, what's the feelings in the fans then? You know what I mean? Because then we're taking off sort of like the main man's coming off the pitch, and we're playing against a team that's sort of 3 divisions above us.
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes think that Sonko doesn't actually get enough credit from supporters. Maybe because he's a defender. I don't know, but I don't think he always gets the credit he deserves. To drop from the level that he was playing at to come and play at Harlow. So obviously, someone like that getting injured you're always going to miss him. But we had a good squad, Dave, didn't we?
Oh yeah.
And we could account for things like that. I mean, some of the players that year that weren't even getting in the team, You had Ryan Malore, who was a good player. Joe Benjamin, Mario Noto. That's the season he come in. He wasn't playing sort of every game. We had a real good side, and we could, if one or two got injured, we could actually be okay with it. But yeah, so compare that to now, and it's not really the case. But maybe that'll change.
So I mean, we moved forward, and you said earlier on that you was talking about the Cray game, and you wasn't too confident around the Cray game. But I mean, with that Cray game, I mean, can you remember the build? I mean, myself, I remember. Say I was actually super nervous going into that game. We was doing commentary up on the press box, but
Yeah.
it was one of those games where you knew that a Tony Russell side were going to be, a tough side to beat. So, I mean, what was your memories on that day? I mean, the whole build up from I don't know if you was working in the morning or what you might be doing during that day, but what was the overriding memories from when you got up to when you got to the ground?
I just remember not feeling particularly confident, as I said earlier. I'm the last 5 or 6 games of the normal season. I was saying to Phil and whoever else, I was like, I don't want us to get Cray. I think they beat us. They're really good side in that. So on the day itself, it was a bit of, I don't know. I really didn't fancy us, in all honesty. So it was a bit of nerves. Obviously, you have a few beers and that, and see what happens. And we were brilliant on the day, but leading up to it, I really, really didn't fancy us at all.
Well, because you could look to that playoffs then, and I think as I said, to somebody else, you look at the two sides you didn't want to face in the playoffs, and it was probably Cray and Hornchurch. Were the
Yeah, I'll go with that.
those four that you didn't, that you didn't want to play, and you knew you was going to have to play at least one of them, but it was to get both of them was probably a bit of a nightmare. But is it a weird thing, or is it just me that when you get to a big game like that, all of a sudden the crowd jumps up from 200 and jumps up to 700, and as a fan, are you not disappointed that more of those sort of fans don't want to come along and see another game?
Yeah, I think obviously you want a big crowd, Dave, and it is disappointing. But I'm not sure that we as a club do enough to get those people to come back. The playoff finals are a prime example. You had 1,500, 1,600 people there on the day, and we go up, and the price of a ticket went straight up. And I think that maybe that sent them the wrong message. They could have had forms maybe on the day. First game, I don't know, some sort of incentive. I just don't think we encourage people back as much as we maybe could. I know there's been various ideas get mooted around, but it is difficult. Where people are not as keen to watch non-league football. Let's be fair. People would rather watch Tottenham, West Ham, and all the rest of it. But I think once they give it a go, a lot of people are converted. Yeah, it's just a shame to not get a few more for such a big town. I think more people live in Harlow than they do in Blackburn, and they've won the Premier League. I'm not saying we should be up there.
Yeah. But are you concerned though, with as long as this COVID-19 goes on, the longer that we're not playing non-league football? I heard someone say this the other day. I think it was the chairman of the Northern Premier League said it the other day on my show. Said that his biggest concern is the longer we're not playing, the more fans like yourself and Buddha and others find something else to do, whether that's golf or whether that's whatever it might be. Horse racing, maybe in your case, whatever. And all of a sudden, when it comes to non-league football coming back again, those fans are still saying, "Well, I can't be bothered with it now," and stick with their, with whatever else they're doing on a Saturday afternoon. I mean, is that a concern? Do you think, especially with a club like us, where we're only getting sort of a couple of hundred people through the gate?
I think some of the names you mentioned there would go sort of for hell or high water. The names Buddha, Phil, etc. I think the diehards like that will always go ultimately. And I mentioned the price of a ticket. I think people like that would pay £20 just to watch Harlow. So maybe it will turn away some of the casual supporters. Perhaps, I don't know. Maybe they won't want to go. But then on the flip side of it, after everything being shut down, locked down, maybe people will think, well, we ain't been able to see a game of football for a long time. I'll take the kids along.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's impossible to say. It's impossible to say.
So you was talking about the semi-final. What about the final? What was your thoughts on the final then? If you wasn't too confident in the semi-final, I mean, what was your thought process going into that game?
Oh, the complete opposite. I thought once we beat Cray, we were basically up. I don't think that's maybe overconfident, but yeah, I really fancied us that day. And again, I just thought we were outstanding. Yeah, just absolutely brilliant. It's quite funny as well on that day. Dave Collis, the current assistant manager, as it were, he was playing, and his dad was watching him, and I know his dad through work now. And it's funny how things sort of work, because he was moaning about his dad was moaning about the Harlow fans, because I think a bottle of water or something got thrown at the bench, or beers, or there was something that happened. There was a little bit of a scuffle. I don't know. So it's funny how these things work. That he's now our assistant manager, sort of thing. So
you didn't know the other twist to that game then? That
what's that?
The assistant manager of AFC Hornchurch was Mark Holloway.
Oh, that would make sense, wouldn't it? Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So there was. I didn't know Dave was planning. I'll be honest with you, but I know Mark was the assistant manager of AFC Hornchurch on that day. So that was another thing that's come out of that. It came out of that game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how these things work. Yeah. But obviously, I think non-league's a bit of a merry-go-round like that, isn't it?
But I mean, where was you then when the famous goal went in? Whereabouts? Where was you right behind it? Could you see the Lane Ely strike? I mean,
just over on the terrace with all the usual lot. I think I saw it from a better angle on all the footage, but at the time, yeah, unreal goal, unreal strike.
Yeah.
But yeah, brilliant player as well, Dave. Brilliant player.
Yeah. So I mean, as fans, and I think I asked Buddha this the other day. Was there managers that you knew that turned up at Barrows Farm, and you knew yourself that you could get under their skin a little bit by, the chanting and the singing and etc. 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 Was there days when you were in the bar at the beginning going, oh, we've got Mr. So in the dugout today. We can get we can really sort of get under his skin. Was any of that sort of stuff going on?
I don't think it was ever planned as such. But obviously, where that terrace is at Harlow, you're right behind the managers, at least for one half. So they're always going to get pelters, and it's how they react. And I know the obvious ones, obviously, Mr. Gardner throwing his coat and whatever else. I actually think he'd be a very good manager for Harlow at some point, Justin Gardner. So he's an obvious one. And there was another one with Glenn Alzapidi. Obviously, former Harlow manager himself. Just all through the game, me and my mate were just saying Glenn over and over again, and you could tell by the end of it, I think he was just red with rage, because it just annoyed him so much. So pathetic, obviously, to do it, but obviously at the time it's just hilarious, and it winds these people up.
But I mean, are you surprised by that though? That they actually let you? I suppose because they actually sort of do get rallied up by it, or not? Because I mean, sometimes you guys are extremely loud, and it's quite funny to watch, because you can slowly but surely see the away dugout getting more and more angry as it goes on. Do you know what I mean? And you just know that. I've seen. I think Buddha said it himself, where he's gone up and smacking on the back of the dugouts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, have you personally got a favourite manager that turns up at Barrows Farm and you think to yourself, well, happy days, we've got a great chance today because we can wind him up St. Chronic? Is it Justin?
I think we've played Justin Gardner teams sort of since his outburst. And I think he might have learned his lessons. Glenn's Hamplin was one. When on the few times that we played Billericay, I think most of the times we played Billericay, he hasn't even bothered turning up. That's obviously how much he thinks of Harlow. But he turned up one game, and it was Paul Konchesky's debut for Billericay.
Yeah.
And Konchesky, he had an absolute shocker. I think he was playing centre midfield, and he was shocking, and everyone was right on his back. And in the end, he turned around and he went, "Fuck's sake, leave him alone." And he could tell that had wound him up, probably because he was paying him through the nose in wages. But yeah, no, not really as such at the moment. I mean, dropping into this level, Dave, I'm not aware of who a lot of the managers are. Quite frankly, it's only a few names that sort of ring a bell.
So you were saying that there's some right stinker of grounds in the South Central. I mean, I asked Danny the same questions and stuff like that. I mean, what are the grounds? Have you noticed a big difference between, say, the North Division when we were in that and got promoted, the Prem, and now the South Central? I mean, is there a major difference between, say, the North and the South Central of grounds?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I mean, you get good and bad anywhere. The old Averley ground was a shocker until they moved into that new one with the 3G. But this division's a bit of a weird one, because you go to crap areas and you expect crap grounds. But in this division, a lot of the places are in nice areas, like Chalfont St Peter, for example. Lovely place, well-to-do area, and we got to the ground and the clubhouse is a nursery. I think Donna took a picture of a sign in the seat saying "Don't jump in the toilet" or something. But no, it's a bit of a weird one. Nice areas and nice pubs beforehand, but yeah, the actual grounds just seem to be just forgotten about almost. Just poor.
So is that the one for you then? It's the worst one that you've been to in the South Central, Chalfont St Peter?
I was trying to think this the other day. Who was the team sort of near the bottom?
South Park?
No, there was another one we went, and they were bottom of the league. I think they only got 2 or 3 points at that point, and it was awful. I think someone had gone into the club into the boardroom, and had a pop. It's just a terrible ground. They just roll into one. I can't think of what one it was, but terrible team, terrible place.
Yeah. So I've got down here, so Staines were bottom. So Staines is quite a good ground, though, isn't it?
Staines is decent, not Staines.
So FC Romania at Cheshunt. Northwood,
I don't think we've been there yet.
Ashford Town.
Ashford, that's the one.
Yeah.
Ashford Town, yeah. Absolutely shocking. Horrible players, horrible team, horrible everything. The only good thing, I think there was a Scottish or a Geordie woman behind the bar that was lovely. I think Fags was having a bit of a flirt up with her, but no, that was a shocker. So, well, not the worst one I've ever been to. I'd still go with the old Averley ground for that.
Right.
But yeah, some poor ones in this division for sure.
So going into next season, we're going into it. I mean, what are you expecting? I mean, are you expecting, a good season, mediocre season? Are you expecting a season of struggle again? I mean, what's in your mind and people that maybe you've spoken to? I mean, what are the fans expecting? And I know everybody's quite positive going into a new season. I understand that, but I mean, you guys must have some kind of an idea of where you expect the team to be, come the end of the season next time round.
We'll struggle, Dave, if we don't improve ultimately, because the way we often look at players is, would those players get into that playoff winning side? And I don't think there's been a player for a couple of seasons that you can say that about. So certainly need to improve the team, and if the team improves, who knows? But the proof will be in the pudding with the players you're getting ultimately, and I guess in the way they're coached. But if we were to base it on last season's team, it's a mid-table side all day long.
So what do you think it's going to take? I mean, if we start going on a good run, we're in the playoffs, we're in that sort of playoff sort of promotion spot, and all of a sudden the team's playing really well. You're pleased, the fans are pleased. Do you think that might start bringing back some of the older fans into the ground because they see that there's a bit of success again, going forward?
Wouldn't like to speak for people, but ultimately everyone prefers to watch a winning team. I mean, when Danny Chapman was winning, there I didn't hear sort of much in the way of dissenting views based on the style of football or whatever. It was only when the results went south was when the stick came in. So yeah, I think people prefer to watch a winning team. Would it encourage everyone back? I don't know, but yeah, success breeds. I think more success, obviously.
So what about I suppose with it all and everything else coming in? You saw Chapo's interview. Would you expect to see him come back to Arlo anytime soon?
Well, based on what he said, Dave, I'd be shocked if he didn't. Quite frankly, because yeah, everything just pointed towards the fact that he would come back. For me, whether that'd be the right decision, I don't know, because I think maybe change was needed, and maybe he should have left before he did. But he's been away, freshen up his mind. I don't know.
So
I don't know, but
was you shocked though? I mean, because I think as he was on the show with us again on Monday night, and people then were saying, Keith was saying to him that he was a bit shocked about some of the abuse that Danny was getting on social media, etc., etc. But
yeah,
was you surprised that when Danny handed his resignation in, was that a big surprise to you? Because I know for me, knowing the man and and etc., etc., I was extremely surprised that I woke up one morning to see Ian had posted a chat about handed his notice in. It was a massive shock for me.
yeah. I think the timing was certainly a surprise. I didn't expect him to do it when he done it. If he'd have done it maybe a little bit earlier or at the end of the season or whatever. But yeah, the timing more than anything, Dave, was the shock. I just didn't see him. I mean, he was never going to get sacked. I don't think he was ever going to get sacked. So it was the only way he was going to go is if he left. But I thought he'd leave maybe the summer before or maybe the end of that season. So it was more the timing than anything.
So was you surprised? We got promoted. We got into the Prem. Done really well that first season. I mean, it was up and around the place until quite late. So then, we didn't get there, and I think Junior speaks in his interview about the match that sort of turned it all, which was the one at Bognor when he got sent off. But I mean, was you there for that one?
I was, and I think I commented on your post about questions for him, and said ask him about it. A great weekend, absolutely brilliant weekend. A load of us obviously went down there for the weekend to have a bit of a jolly up. But if anything, the game ruined it because we were going well, as you say. I mean, they're a good team, Bognor, and I think they're in the. I don't know what division they're in now. Are they in the Prem now or the division above?
Yeah, in the Prem, yeah.
Yeah. But the referee was, and I know as supporters we are prone to maybe criticising referees a bit too much, but the referee had an absolute shocker, and the sending off. I'll let Dadson talk about it more on his one, but I've never seen anything like it, and he could tell how distraught he was after the game. I don't think he'd ever been sent off before, and he was just so distraught. And he barely speak to him because of how distraught he was. So you could tell he cares. So that was something.
I mean, his reaction when I asked him the question, you know what Julia's like. He's full of smiles. He's full of joy and happiness all the time, and you can see the difference in his, the way he was holding himself in this, the chat that we had. The minute I mentioned Bognor Regis, and the minute I mentioned, I won't spoil it and let people see what he says, but he does answer it, and he does answer it very passionately, shall we say?
Yeah, I'm sure he's got. I'm interested to hear what he's got to say about it. But in terms of that season, I think we were a bit of a surprise package for a lot of sides, and that's why we done so well. But I don't think any supporters really thought that we were gonna go up or challenge. I know we flirted with the playoffs, but I think everyone would have been happy to finish even 16th, 17th that season. I think everyone would have been happy, but it was a pleasant surprise to finish 10th. But no one really thought that we were going to go up again.
So was you surprised then that going into the next season, quite a few of the players moved on and etc. etc. But so was you surprised one that they moved on considering how well the team had done the season before, and then how much we actually struggled that season and then eventually got relegated?
In terms of the players leaving, I mean, a few of them by that point had probably been there for maybe 3-4 years, which is a shock in itself at this level. So maybe they looked at that finish and thought, well, I don't see us doing much better, and that's why they decided to leave. But some of the players that we lost, we were never going to replace ultimately, and it takes time to replace them, and it probably takes a budget. And I'm not going to get bogged down with all the financial side of things because I don't know too much about it. But ultimately, if you lose those players, you have to spend money to replace them, and it never happened. And we brought ever since really we brought in subpar players or loan signings or whatever else.
So is that difficult as a fan when the club bring in loan players? I mean, is that difficult then when 1 week you've got 1-11 and then the next week you might have 5 of the ones that played last week not playing because you've got another 5 coming. So is that very difficult when the players that come in are not necessarily Harlow players? They might be Southend, Leyton Orient or whatever players. Is that difficult as a fan then because you just don't know who's going to be on the team sheet the following week?
Yeah, I'm not completely against loan signings. But as you say, if they're in and out of the team, or the Southend lads can't play this week, and it's ridiculous not being able to rely on those people. If you sign people on loan and you say they're our player for 3 months, 6 months, the season, fair enough. But it was getting a bit ridiculous at times, in all honesty. I mean, we've had some good loan players. Don't get me wrong. Terrell this season, good player, scored some cracking goals. But if you can't rely on him being available for selection the following week, then I see it as a waste of time. You're better off having your own player and putting him in every single week. I don't know. I think there needs to be something in place, maybe from the division itself, to reform the loan system.
But I mean, I saw the goalkeeper Arthur Janto. He's been let go by Leyton Orient in the last few weeks as well. So again, is there a possibility of bringing him back in, and, on a more permanent thing until he finds himself, something in those sort of divisions, League 2 or professional leagues? I suppose it is difficult, but I suppose some of them, I mean, Pip Donner would turn around and say, but some of them that we've had have gone on to get pro contracts at the club, of course, that they've been at, and I think there was a few last year from what the post that she put on.
Terrell was one of them. One of the centre halves as well, I think, and I think even Emil Aqua managed to get a pro contract. No idea how, Dave, watching him play. But the geezer's got appearances in the football league, and I can't get my head around things like that. But yeah, it's good for those players, Dave. But is it beneficial to Harlow Town or other clubs that are probably not?
Yeah.
Probably not, unless you're getting them for a sustained period of time. I think they need to reform it in some way that it benefits both sides.
Yeah.
Not having the fact that they can get recalled at a moment's notice just seems a bit ridiculous. And a lot of the times they get recalled, they go 70, 80 miles to sit on a bench somewhere where they could be playing for Harlow. It doesn't make sense to me in a lot of instances. So I think maybe it's something they look at. Obviously, the other answer to it, Dave, is we don't rely on them so much. But I'm assuming they come cheap than signing people. So
if last couple of questions for you. I mean, is there players out there that you've seen, say like from last season, that if you'd be overexcited, shall we say, if you see an announcement from Ian, through Twitter or Facebook that we've signed them? I mean, is there players that he'd love to see to come and play for Harlow next year?
Players I've always admired. Ashley Carew was one at Dulwich. I thought he was a fantastic player. I don't even know where he's playing now. He was one. Bricknell was another one. Fantastic striker. There's a few players about, but Purcell, another one. The Hornchurch connection with the club. I thought maybe we could get someone like George Purcell in, but it's just be nice to sign a higher caliber of player, should we say, than we've been signing recently. But I don't know if the budget will allow that sort of thing.
Well, I was just about to say, those three you've just named, I think we'll probably be playing with the under-8s for the rest of the team.
yeah. I was probably a bit ambitious with those. But no, they're some of the players that I've sort of watched us play over the years and thought that they were real good players, and in a different world they'd be fantastic players for Harlow.
Okay, so you've told us all, what your best pub was. What's the worst one you've been in?
I'm not too sure, because Phil researches it so much that we never tend to go in a terrible one.
So is there one you're looking forward to going into again next season? Is the Bracknell one the one that you're really looking forward to going into?
Yeah, definitely. And we always liked going to the one in Brighton. There's one in Brighton that was nice on the marina, obviously from when Whitehawk were in the same division as us. So if we ever draw a sort of team down that neck of the woods, then that'd be nice to go back there, certainly. And it'd be nice. It'd be great for a weekend.
Yeah.
Again, but I don't even know if you've got enough supporters to do that sort of thing anymore.
Well, listen, mate. I was supposed to last thing for best ground then that you've been, best and worst ground that you've been in yourself, ground wise, and of course, who's been your favourite, Harlow player in the seasons that you've been following the club?
Best ground, Sudbury. I know a lot of people have said that. Lovely people, lovely ground, lovely area, and all the rest of it. Worst ground, it's got to be Averley. I feel like I'm digging you out, Dave, but I keep saying Averley. But Averley's old ground was a shocker. So it's got to be that. Favourite or best player? It's probably a toss-up between Junior Dadson or Jared Small, but because Phil won't come on here, I'm going to have to say Craig Pope. Just purely for that reason. I thought, what a player, really. If Craig Pope had any pace, he'd have had a career in the Football League. I thought he was a brilliant footballer. Obviously, some of the challenges, the scrap that I was saying about earlier, all genius. But yeah, and I remember there was one season where he got written off on the fans page and whatever else, and people were saying, "Oh, he can't play there. He can't play right back. He's too slow. He's too old." And I think he ended up winning. I think he cleaned up at the fan awards that season. He was absolutely brilliant. Maybe to have him back as a manager one day would certainly be interesting.
Well, I was laughing with Danny Brown, which we will see later on tonight, and we just turned around and said, what a back four that would have been if you'd have had Lane Eady one side, and you could have had Brownie, Sonko, and Popey. I said, but the only downside to that is you just don't know how many players you'd have been playing with by the time you'd have played with a full-time whistle.
Yeah, I think Donna would have paperwork coming out of her ears for yellow card and red card fines.
It would be fun. But listen, mate, I've really enjoyed the chat today. I really appreciate you coming on, and hopefully everybody else has enjoyed the show tonight. And we'll be back in the next couple of episodes. We've got Lane Eady, we've got Scott Alderman, we've also got Marvin Samuel, and we've got Darren Blewett as well in the coming weeks as well. So hopefully you'll enjoy those as much as we've enjoyed talking to Ross today. But until the next time, thank you very much and good night.